market as it is already, with, between Coca-Cola and Home Depot, you've got a lot of big players here. So how many of you have done relocation in the past? Okay. So now a usual question. Karen McRae? Trained? Yeah, okay. Kathy Conley trained?
Yeah.
So, you know all my friends who I now have awkward relationships with since we're down here. So you've been trained by some fantastic people. What we're going to tell you isn't all that different, but especially for the newer people, maybe as a reminder, we're going to talk about a little bit about Relo 101, why it exists, why we take all your money, why you need to fill out those silly reports, and then we're going to talk about super exciting stuff. Has anyone heard of the ERC-BMA? Anyone think it sucks? I agree. But it's a great opportunity for you to distinguish yourself from the other brokers. So we're going to have one kind of quick nuts and bolts about it, and one a little more thematic. I've talked to a lot of people on the other side of relocation companies saying, hey, what do we do right, what do we do wrong? And we really got an earful from them. So hopefully there'll be some information that will help you. So, and I know that these screens are a little small, so I do apologize. But mostly I'm a walker and a talker, and you can interrupt me with questions, feel free, but yeah, not the long diatribes, although I haven't been around long enough to have caused any of them. So depending on who it's about, I actually welcome hearing some of that. So we'll talk about what is Relo, what we feel it is at Ansley, what our expectations are, specifically how we are going to be running it here, and also some of the nuts and bolts. So to jump right into it, and we will also have copies of these if you like. It's an easy little link, and you can zip through all of the information. So what is it? So basically, it's an industry that was developed about 50 years ago to help corporations move people from one part of the world to the next. And it was started, Kraft and McDonald's up in Chicago were big proponents of it and kind of trailblazers. And they did it because they would say, okay, Bill, you need to move to Atlanta, we're going to buy your house, go. Okay, Sally, you need to move to Dallas, we're going to buy your house, go. And then the Fortune 500 world kind of got in the business of owning real estate, and they thought, we really don't enjoy this, so let's start jobbing this out to the real estate companies, and that's how a whole industry grew. You're going to hear the phrase RMC a lot, relocation management companies. So it's a third party, or an RMC, that moves a broker, that moves a client across the country, and usually helps with the purchase and then the disposition of their home. It's also broker referrals. Some of you, depending on where you're coming from, were members of leading real estate companies in the world, which is the world's largest broker referral network. I'm very proud to say that Ansley is a member of that as well. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're affiliated with over 600 companies worldwide that we share our referrals with, and that I go out and promote, that when you have an opportunity in Atlanta, that we're the ones to go to. And I can tell you anecdotally, I've already gotten a number of calls and referrals saying we're really glad that we have an alternative in the marketplace that we can go to, and we've already got a pipeline going with that. It is a stressful situation. To give you an example, and these are statistics from the Employer Relocation Council, which is kind of like the R of the Relo world. On average, don't worry, get started. On average, you have, the transferee has 11 days to accept a referral, and 11 days to accept a transfer, and 30 days with which to be at the new place. So to kind of put that in perspective, hey Bill, new job offer, go home and talk to your wife and your kids. You need to tell me by October 1st if you're moving and leaving this home that you raised your children in. By the way, we need you there in the middle of October. So this isn't the good thing is it's not a month of Sundays type of client. When they find out they're moving, they need to move, they need to get out of their house quickly, so it should be handled a little differently. It's also employees being bought out. And what we mean by that, if you've ever heard of inventory properties, or scenarios where a Relo company goes and buys the property from the employee, that's where a huge benefit comes in. Reason being, we'll use $1 million because it's a nice example and it's a nice big number. Your commission, antitrust notwithstanding, might be 6% on $1 million property, right? $60,000. The relocation industry, the reason they call it a third party, they're an intermediary. And what they do is say you're representing a seller, a buyer comes, they agree to buy the home for $1 million. Normally, your seller would pay annually $60,000, right? They pay that fee. What they do, however, at the last minute, right before the sale happens, after the contract is agreed to, transferee actually sells their home to the relo company. You change listing agreements, you get a new listing agreement, and the relocation company is the entity that sells to the buyer. And you may be like, well, that's semantics, John. It's not really semantics, because if they didn't do that, one of the benefits usually of relocation is that they'll cover your closing costs and your commission. So let's say Sally sells her $1 million home and then goes to Tesla and says, hey, you said you're going to pay me for this at $60,000. And Tesla says, okay, here's $60,000, and they get the check, and the check's for $42,000 because they took taxes out of it. And then they go, hey Tesla, you owe me $18,000 for taxes, and Tesla goes, okay, here's a check for $18,000, which is for $13,500, et cetera, et cetera. It comes up to almost an additional 50%, depending on your tax bracket, to gross it up. So that's why the relocation industry is so valuable in the corporate world, because the amount of money they save in terms of taxable liability to their transferees is literally millions. And to make it even sweeter, that $60,000 that Tesla paid in a benefit turns into a business expense that they can write off against revenue. So it kind of plays both ways, and that's why we have this peculiar little industry called the relocation model. So, for you, as much as I've been excited, I was able to grow the business ninefold in Chicago in the last 5 years. We already have a 3-figure pipeline in Atlanta, which is significantly more than we closed in 5 years prior to having the partnership. For you, it's an opportunity to grow your referral base and to supplement your book of business. No one's going to get super rich doing relo, because as Lane mentioned, there are significant referral fees. But the good thing about relocation clients, they are white collar, usually management to upper management. I know that we're rolling through a great economy right now, but in a couple of years it might be a little different. They have jobs, they can get a mortgage, they're not going to be talking to you for years and years about selling their home. It's going to be a much quicker, much more fruitful, culminating, quicker type of process. And it's an opportunity for you with the buyer. If they are the typical transferee, they're going to be moving in 3 more years. They're going to be heading to Raleigh. So it's an opportunity not only for you to get referrals from that company, but it's an opportunity for you to then get the sale on the back end. This is just kind of a smattering of some of the companies that we work with. Up in Chicago, we have a portfolio of over 50 relocation companies that we work with. So there are a lot of them out there. And as mentioned earlier, I travel around all the time, so I've added Atlanta to the song that I sing. So it's already relationships that I've had for the last 16 years that we are starting to plug in. And companies oftentimes have very small networks that they work with. 2 of them were on this list. BGRS, it used to be called Brookfield Relocation. If you're kind of tenured, they do Coca-Cola. Serta has a lot of business. We were just brought into their networks in the Atlanta market. And in one of them, diplomacy stops me from naming, they kicked a broker out to let us into the network. So that's kind of a double positive. In addition, I sit on the board of a relocation company called NEI. I'm their advisory board, and they work with a little company called Home Depot and Coca-Cola. So we've got some nice ins that we're very excited to take advantage of. So we've got 50 plus companies that we're working with. You all are kind of, we're getting together almost a little bit before what I'm hoping is a great year. So I'm glad we're having this opportunity to talk now. I think 2020 is when the pipeline will really be working. And let me tell you, so Lane is the reload manager, and Krista is also there helping out significantly. The nuts and bolts will be handled out of Chicago. But I want to make sure you know my crew, my team has all been down here. They've done tours of the area with the agents. But where we will be relying on Lane and company will be more for buyer, helping with buyer placement, or helping with having an interview with a buyer to find out exactly where they're looking. I've got a team of 6 back in Chicago who will handle all of the nuts and bolts take care of all the interaction between you and between the relocation company. And yes, we have fake Atlanta phone numbers for everybody, and we have fake Ansley email addresses that bounce to our Chicago addresses. The reason we did that is to make sure that our worthy competitors aren't saying, oh, they're just running that out of Chicago. Well, we are. I'm back and forth to Atlanta every month. We have people in Atlanta who are on the ground working the business. So there's kind of two types of business we'll talk about. The easy stuff is broker-to-broker referral. That's simply you send a referral out to Texas, or someone from Texas sends it to you. All I can tell you about that is do a good job and close the deal. Great. If you send an outgoing referral, tell us all about it and sit back and wait for a check. We've got about a 60% conversion on our outgoing referrals, which is pretty high in terms of the industry. But each line is a little different. So we'll talk about that. In terms of Ansley Reloads, again, my role and my goal is to procure opportunities for you all, for your company, manage the day-to-day back and forth with the relocation companies, oversee compliance. They've got a lot of rules and a lot of regulations. If you, I don't want to say if you like paperwork, if you can deal with paperwork, it's a great business opportunity. If you hate paperwork, you might want to go and do your emails and still join us for wine. I'm the first to say it's expensive, ERCPMAs are a drag, and we need to do these silly reports every 2 weeks. But they're really important for a number of reasons. One reason is companies are very transparent, meaning the report that you fill out may end up, I'll use McDonald's as an example. McDonald's has 24/7 access to all the reports that the relocation company has. So if there's somebody who can't sleep in HR McDonald's at 2 o'clock in the morning who wants to see what's going on with Mr. Jones' move, they can come see it. And they can come see if the agent filled out the information. So that's why there are many little things that make a big difference that are much more, they take a lot more of your activity and a lot more of your time. You can skate a little bit when you're working with someone who hasn't sold their home in 12 years, right? But you can't skate when you've got somebody who has 75 files on their desk, because they know what's going on inside and out. So it's very important to make sure that you stay on top of this. So if we manage, we will take care of some of those boring things like paying bills, etc. So if something ends up going into inventory, or if there's a lag between when Mr. Jones moves out and Mrs. Smith moves in, the group in Chicago can take care of all those details for you. This would be a real horrible time for the is right. You may have a job. Ta-da! Nope. Okay.
John, you think I need to batteries?
What's that?
Batteries.
I might. I'm going to do my other trick.
Okay.
Take it out. I'm very technical. I'm marketing, so. 9 times out of 10 it works like a petulant child, but I know there was another one, like right there. Can we plug that in? Just because I'm such a wanderer. Right there, where your microphone. Yeah. You know how it works? So there's an off on. Try this one more way, and then I'm just you keep going back and forth. Sorry, everyone. Is anyone coming to the expo in October? Why don't you talk for a minute?
So, in October 29th, on where? Specifically,
Maybe quick.
Act Properties has an expo. Stay tuned for more details.
Don't go away, because I'm not sure how much better it is. So, referral fees, updates, paperwork. Why are you stealing my clients? I already know how to do relo. I already know how to do real estate. A couple things about that. We get it. You know how to do real estate better than I do. I've been licensed for 20 years. I bought a lot of properties. I never do it myself. I always use an agent. I respect what you do. Relo is just a little weird, okay? When it comes to paperwork and signing things, etc. Why do we have all these fees? Well, I'll tell you why, and you don't need to like it, but I just want to make sure you understand. For the most part, these fees go to supplement the relocation. They go to supplement the move. They don't always. Just like a broker-to-broker referral, you're licensed in the state of Georgia, so you have the right to refer something to Raleigh, North Carolina, and get a 30% referral fee. All of these companies are brokerages, and that's how they make their money. For the most part, they don't charge to do the transaction. They get money back from all of their partners, be they movers or be they real estate people. And that's just, for better or worse, kind of where those dollars go. We're always asked to not discuss that, and it's always for the best. And I'll tell you, one reason why is it'll tick somebody off and they won't want to use you in the future. But another reason is Sally may be getting $15,000 worth of benefits, and Bill, who sits next to her, is the same grade level or whatever at a certain company, may be getting $10,000 worth of benefits. Even us in the relocation department, we don't know what the benefits are from one client to the next. So we have referral fees. They're somewhat onerous. They're big. They're part of doing business. And if you'd like to do that to supplement your book of business, we appreciate that. If not, we certainly understand. And you know, one comment we get a lot is the real company is stealing my client. Well, hold on, what's going on? Yeah, Mr. Jones is moving and the real company is taking my money. The one thing I would humbly suggest to you is the reason Mr. Jones is moving is because ABC Widget Company offered him a job in New York. So the only reason that this transaction is taking place is because of the relocation. If not, Mr. Jones may have stayed in the house until he died and he wouldn't get the listing for 15 more years. So they're kind of creating an opportunity for you. So hopefully you can look at it with that set of eyes. We are asked not to discuss the referral fees for the reasons just mentioned. So the RMCs want partners who can make them look good, obviously. And the way that they go about that is customer satisfaction ratings. They're going to do surveys, as childish as it sounds. Ansley will be getting a report card every quarter from Server Relocation, one of the top 3. And depending on what our grade is, A, B, C, D, or probation, that affects the amount of business that the company overall gets. Meaning we'd actually get locked out of whatever sort of system that they have that puffs up the opportunities for consultants to give us business. So customer satisfaction is key. The BMA, the broker market analysis, filling that out and filling that out on time. Usually we're asked to contact the transferee within 24 hours and then have the BMA filled out within 48 hours of the appointment. So it's not like you get it on Monday, it's due on Wednesday night. You get it on Monday, you might set the appointment for the next Sunday, then you've got 48 hours after that to do. You know, working as a team with the counselors and the consultants, we'll talk about that a little more with the BMA. You know, in your own business, Lane may need to talk. In your own business, it's just jumping around a little bit. You need to satisfy one customer, right? It's your buyer, it's your seller. In the relocation business, I'm not going to say the least influential person is your transferee, because you're working with someone who can give you a pipeline of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 deals down the road. So you're dealing with a corporate client, you're dealing with the relocation management company. Sorry about this, ladies and 5 gentlemen. Which is about the normal ratio, right? So RMC updates. The corporate client, as I mentioned before, usually has access to the updates on a 24/7 basis. So that's why it's very important to have this on a timely basis. Our liability is much bigger than one transaction. So, you know, if you have a frustrating experience with an over-the-counter deal, you hope they don't go to Yelp. If we have a frustrating experience with BGRS, it affects our future opportunities for you as well as future opportunities for the company. Service level agreements, SLAs, and report cards. We talked about that a little bit. I'm the guy who keeps pressing this even though he knows he doesn't. So how do you distinguish yourself? What makes them want to go back and request Sally or request Ann or request Bill? I know it sounds silly, but that BMA return time, because they just want to go home at 5 o'clock. And if the BMA is not back, they need to harass Caitlin on my team who needs to contact you. So a lot of it is super basic stuff. Creative marketing, something in your BMA beyond, I'm going to put a yard sign in, I'm going to put it in the MLS. Timely updates, pricing, accurate pricing. If you need to lose a deal because you price it right, please do that. The chances of you getting it back 90 days later when it goes into inventory go up significantly. They're always looking at what the variance is between the two brokers that come in. So typically on a listing, if the variance is more than 10% out of whack, they'll bring in a third broker and then they'll knock out whichever one was farther away and average the two that are closest together. And proactivity is certainly a big thing for the relocation people. You're their eyes and ears. You can take a lot of noise out of the counselor's life. Most of the consultants who you work with do not live in the metro Atlanta area. So they do not know anything about the metro Atlanta area. So it's really up to you to talk to them about, just different communities, inside the perimeter, outside the perimeter. That doesn't translate. They don't know what you're talking about if you're talking to someone in Washington. And it's an opportunity for you to become a requested agent. So listings are probably the most involved compared to rentals or compared to purchases. All I can say is read the paperwork, read the paperwork, read the paperwork, please read the paperwork. It's all in the paperwork, and 100% of the problems we have comes when something is in the paperwork that wasn't read. Broker listings, let's get that out of the way. It's just like an over-the-counter. Be charming, do fantastic, get the listing and sell it. But RMC listings, which might be called a pre-marketing opportunity, that's typically done on that ugly ERC BMA, or some companies have a proprietary system. It always needs to be done on a computer. I'm sure we're all familiar with computers. You cannot handwrite your BMAs, you cannot handwrite your updates. I see one person here smiling who hand typed a BMA for someone who did it by hand not too long ago. They simply did not accept it. It's 2019. There's something called an exclusion clause, which I've only had go south once in my 16 years, so don't freak out about it. When you get a listing, there will be an exclusion clause, and it will say, Weicker Relocation reserves the right to cancel this listing at any time with no money owed to Ansley. Now, who would normally sign a listing agreement like that? That's crazy. The reason they do it, as we talked about earlier, is so at the last minute, when there's an agreement, Weicker Relo can buy the home from transferee, relist it with Ansley, and then sell it with all of those same terms. So it's not used to sneak them out of the deal. It's not used for them to get rid of you if they don't like you. It's an opportunity for them to make sure that they're IRS compliant. So send the MLS sheet when it's active. Make sure that you notify us as any offers come in. 9 times out of 10, but not always. Not every company does the buyout, but usually the RMC, the real company, will be the entity that's going to be signing this. Closing instructions. For the most part, we're up in Chicago, you're down in Atlanta. Please double check all the numbers. We'll create the commission statements, but anything that you see that looks a little weird, please let us know. Some companies have a check cut at closing that goes to the real company. Some companies have it with the title company paying out right there. So again, it'll all be in the paperwork. If a referral check is actually handed to you, please just bring it back to the office and give it to your accounting team. So we'll talk about inventory for a few minutes. That's occasionally if the home doesn't sell and you may do some property management on it when the corporation buys it, or it might be a scenario where Mrs. Jones moves, vacates the property, and you've got a little bit of a window where you've got an empty property, maybe 2 weeks, then maybe a month and a half until we close. We'll often be asked to manage the property during that time. So Ansley Relo, the team, will take care of all the utilities. We'll just need whatever information you have to pass on. We'll pay the bills. You don't need to be involved in any of that. If there's any, R&I, repairs and improvements that need to be done as a result of the inspection, we'll ask you to assist with getting some vendors and getting some quotes. But again, you can have all the billing go direct to us. We'll take care of all that. We don't want you involved in paying somebody $1,000 and then waiting to get reimbursed by the real company. We just need those invoices very quickly. Long-term inventory, if it is going to be weeks or months, we'd like you to come and check on the property every week just to make sure there's no vandalism or, fortunately you don't have to mark the roof pipes first because it gets so cold. But, those are some of the concerns that the relocation company is going to have. And we'll also need approval before any of these things occur. Reading the paperwork will answer 99 out of 100 of your questions. So, that's the hard part. Buyer referrals are much easier. Just a couple reminders. No news is news. Meaning, your 2-week update, sometimes you have agents saying, well, I didn't fill it out because nothing happened. Because they're out of town and they haven't even come and looked at anything. We need for you to still fill out that paperwork so it's there, so the RMC has an answer when the corporate says, hey, what's going on with the bills moved. Please don't make any recommendations. As an agent, you know attorneys when needed, you know handymen, you know lenders. All of that is usually taken care of, perhaps with the exception of some repairmen, but that's only if something is going into inventory or if it's an inspection issue. Usually, no matter how good your lender is, they're not going to have sharper rates. It's hard to get sharper rates than what's out on the street right now, but you still have benefits the relocation company is going to get, whether it's a point off or whether it's minimal closing costs, things that you can't get from an over-the-counter producer simply cannot provide. So just make sure you send us the contract once it's executed. Rental referrals, they also suck, right? They're as bad as ERC BMAs because you don't usually make much money. In this market, how often would you say you're compensated on rentals? Ever? Seldom? Okay. For better or for worse, about 30% of reloads nationwide tend to be rentals. What we will try and do in Ansley Reload is have a rental tour fee, which can be anywhere from $250 to $500. So should we get the opportunity to negotiate that, we'll make sure that you are able to share in that. But, at some point, we may ask you to do a rental. We know that it's a drag. Hopefully, it's something that's in an upper bracket that will at least pay the co-op. Rentals do matter because if it's boring and not profitable for you, it's also boring and not profitable for the reload company. But they will remember us and they will remember you. My team in particular will remember you if you do us a favor on a rental. So we understand that that's not a huge dollar. I'm not going to go through these in great detail, but there are 11 rules that make that whole shell game of paying for the commission legal. It's an IRS ruling, and some of the things that are involved in that, you don't need to know these in great detail, but the agreement that the real world has made with the IRS is that they have this exclusion clause. There's no down payment or no signature by the actual owner of the home. They actually buy out the home, the real company buys it. And then once that happens, the burden of sale is on the real company. It's unconditional. We just, in Chicago, had a $1.8 million reload deal. The transfer got paid out and went on their merry way. They were having a bad day and they ripped out the home stereo, the home video projector because they were mad at the buyers, and the buyers went to the walkthrough and they're like, hey, what's the deal? This is all ripped out. We're not going to close. And the real company offered them $5,000, and then the real company offered them $10,000. And then the attorney said, forget it, we're out. So that couple they're gone. They've got their $1.8 million, and there's a relocation company that owns a $1.8 million home. But that's the deal. That's the agreement they made with the IRS, and they are not very happy right now. And the transfer was a corporate counsel for their corporate clients. And you can't mess with them. Who are you going to complain to? But that's the 1 in a million where something gets a little weird. There's no negotiation once it's bought out. You have a second listing agreement. You have a second contract. There's no change in price. So it's really weird. In a normal transaction, you have things like title insurance. A deed is recorded. The buyer conducts a walkthrough. The parties never advance equity. When someone borrows equity, a notice signed. None of that happens with a corporate relocation. It's like, hey, you need to go to Dallas? Hey, you got someone's going to buy your place for $1.8 million? Here's $1.8 million. Less your mortgage. Have fun, and they buy the property, and they're stuck with it if they took some chattel with it. So the corporate client assumes all the risk of everything that we just mentioned. And I'm going to read this. The buyer is signing a contract with a seller who's not entitled. And the standard addendum states that it's only going to sell it subject to the availability to sell the property to an outside buyer. So it's some weird stuff. So it's good to know this because if you have ever done a real listing and you have a nervous buyer on the other side, sometimes you need to coaching them is sometimes just as important as coaching the relocation company. Why didn't they hear from them? Why didn't they hear from them? Well, because service closed on the weekends and they don't check their voicemail. You just need to wait. It doesn't mean the deal's not going to come together. So you can use your psychology degree on the other side as well. We'll talk about leading real estate companies in the world for a minute. And if you're tenured in the business, it used to be called the Relo Network. But that's a group that Ansley is very proud to be affiliated with. I want to say there are 50 countries throughout the world who are members of Leading RE. We, at your neighbors up north, have closed in probably 12 different countries. So it's the access to the world's largest broker network. And it really is. It's bigger than the RE/MAX network. It's bigger than the Cardis network. It's bigger than the Prudential network used to be back in the day. And it's all independent. So the fees are pre-negotiated. And I know that agents like to negotiate when they're sending referral fees out. But the referral fee is set contractually by the mill and Leading RE at 30%. So if you send something to Texas, we're going to get a 30% referral fee. 6%, not 6% of that number, but a 6% referral fee is what is owed back to our network, Leading RE. It's the closest thing you'll ever experience to a franchise fee in your life, and it's only on an outgoing referral. So to simplify it, when you send an outgoing referral, you will receive a 24% referral fee that will be paid to you at your split. We will manage it internally. If you have a preferred agent, we can go to that preferred agent or preferred company, but we'll go to a relocation department. They'll assist us in picking an agent. If you don't like the agent, we can fire them. If you want to interview the agents, you can interview them, but we'll take care of all of that and all the paperwork and make sure you get paid. As I said, we're probably at about a 60% conversion rate on our outgoing referrals. So, send the business and sit back and wait for a check. So you don't need to do any showings in this scenario. And it applies to brokers that are in our Leading RE network as well as brokerages that are outside of our Leading RE network. It applies to your best friend, Terry Norman. It applies to your sister-in-law at Berkshire Hathaway. It's just a contractual agreement that we have. We certainly like it. For some reason, you've got a referral that's within Ansley's footprint, but not within your own. We would hope that you would talk to one of the managing brokers and get a referral within the family, and then whatever sort of referral fees you'd like to negotiate is fine. Same with Chicago, because we have a great relationship back and forth in terms of management. So, fees. There are 3 ways that we go through our fees in the relocation business. I'll start with the worst and then get to the best. So, the first is a standard fee, which means Ansley has a relationship with ABC Relo Company. They call us up. They say we need somebody for Buckhead. We call up a Buckhead agent. We offer them a referral. They accept. So if that's the case, there's a referral fee that goes to the company that referred us. Serve a relocation, NEI relocation, whatever that is, and there's a 5% upcharge. So it's not a flat number, so it kind of floats And I would say that referral fees are anywhere from 35 to 40%, depends on what company and what their client is requesting, and the deal is done at a 50-50 split. So that is a significant fee. We consider it the cost of found visits. You didn't have to market to this person. It's truly an opportunity coming to you. The next is if you have a client who's registered. So if you have a client who you're going to list with, or if you have a buyer you're working with, and you have just a sniff that they might be going through a relocation program, we would request that you register them with the relocation department. There's a form that we have, or you can just send an email to relocation@ansleyAtlanta.com. If it's someone that's in your sphere that you are working with, and you register them, you'll do the deal at the referral fee plus 5%, but then you will be paid at your split. So financially, it's much more beneficial. Does that make sense? Okay, so if it's just a plain old referral, it's a 50-50 split, no matter what your split is, okay? If it's someone who's in your sphere, and you let us know, and we have that person registered, after we pay the referral fee, you'll do the deal at your split. So it's financially much more attractive. Let me tell you the other reason that we do that is because a lot of times you're working with someone and they say, oh, I gotta use my relo company, and then they call the relo company and they forget to say, I'm working with so-and-so, or I would like to work with so-and-so. Then they'll call us and there's no requested agent, and we'll go to someone else, and then we'll have to go back and try and fix all this. So you're upset because your client didn't ask for you, or maybe you're upset because we gave you a deal and we're asking to try and claw it back. So it helps things go smoother, and as an added incentive, we try and make it financially a little more positive.
John?
Yes?
So, can you back up?
Yeah.
So let's say I think in dollars. So say it's a $10,000 total commission on standard. So then
Yes.
how would that get divvied out?
So let's say, for sake of argument, I'm gonna try to financially, it's a 40% referral fee.
Okay.
So,
To serve them?
yes.
Okay.
So $4,000 a week. Well, let's say the total referral fee comes to $4,000. So you start with 10, you take away 4, that leaves 6,000. And you're doing it at a 50-50 split, so it'd be 3,000 for the house and 3,000 for the agent. If it were
3,000 for the company?
Yes.
3,000 for the company, 3,000 for the agent.
What about the others? You already backed that up.
Well, I said if we built that all in. So if it came out to 4,500, then you
So
could,
like 4,500 would go for actually getting the referral
that would be money that goes
to the referral.
away off the top.
And then 50% would go to Ansley, so the 6,000
Of the
would be
balance.
divided.
Yeah. Now let's say you are, somebody might need to bring a calculator, but let's say you registered your client because you knew you were going to be working with them. So that $10,000, 4,000 goes away, and that leaves you with $6,000. And you're at a 75% split, for sake of argument. You would receive 75% of that, and the house would receive 25%. So you run the rest of that. Like split lane.
The only thing I'm gonna add to that is, if it is a listed property and FMLS, the FMLS fee comes off the top as well. So we share in that.
Oh, that's.
Okay, and then the most beneficial. Could you do me a favor? So the most beneficial for you is a previous transaction. So if you have done a deal with this person, if you sold them this house, it doesn't matter if you sold them that house, but if you've done a transaction with them again in the past, and then they're gonna be moving out, or they're gonna be moving again, and the real company's involved, we do not upcharge, we do not have you not do it at your split. So you do it at your split, but the relocation company needs to be paid. So, because we want to acknowledge, we don't even consider that a relocation deal, the way we do it, but we still manage all the paperwork, because we don't want anything to get goofed up. So,
Thank you.
thank you, Steve. I found some extra, so now I'm just gonna find out what this easiest question. But does that make sense? If you've done a transaction, then there's gonna be no additional fees involved.
Does the transaction have to occur while we're working?
No, if you've ever done a sales transaction,
With that party.
Yes.
with that party, with Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith, then it's considered your client, yes.
The big thing I want to add here that we have seen locally, and I'm sure John sees in Chicago, is we have made it so simple for you to register. It is simply relo@answeratlanta.com. And the idea behind that is you could send them, you know, John doesn't want this, but if you're working with 5 clients right now, send them those names. All they do is hold those names. If something comes in for that name, they match it to you. If something never comes into that name, it's never matched, there's not a fee owed. The big thing that I've seen is an agent who's been through this training, just like you're doing it now, and they come to me and they go, I was paid at 50/50 and I was working with them. And I said, we had no way of knowing. We had 0 way of knowing that. I'd rather you over-communicate, relo@AnsleyAtlanta, not Lane@AnsleyAtlanta, or relo@AnsleyAtlanta.
You could do
No, please don't do that. But that's very helpful to you, and it's very helpful to us. So,
So just their full legal name.
what's that?
You just need their legal name.
I just need their name.
Not even.
John and Mary Smith, you know, something.
Just so we can track it, so then we have it in a database, and we try, every referral
Yeah.
we get, if we get Mr. Magoo, we type it in and see if Magoo comes up, and then we're like, oh, we can connect.
And we've already had it where we've given the assignment to an agent, they call the transferee, and the transferee is totally embarrassed because they're like, oh, well, it's really nice to talk with you, but I'm talking to so-and-so in your company. And everybody feels just like, ooh, we look horrible. So registering, I can't say it enough how valuable it is.
Yeah, and that's like, we don't steal these names, we don't call these people, we don't market to them, we don't try and reach out if you leave the company and get them in. It's simply, because trust me, it makes our life easier, it makes your life easier, it makes transferees' life easier. It's only awkward if they didn't want to work with you, that'll never happen. So we have a system called Relocation. And if you've done any reload with us yet, you've seen it. Basically, everything is automated. When we give you an assignment, when we offer you an assignment, it'll come through your email. You can use this portal to fill out the ERC BMA, submit the updates, submit your photos, everything. So, super easy stuff to work with. I don't know if I went through some vortex in the plane. So my jack to do my phone charger stopped working, which really sucked. Now this isn't. Anyway, any questions? We're talking a little bit about the BMA.
So, a lot of us serve up through that spectrum and have been through, for instance, a JP Morgan client on 2.5 months. Then he moved to Charlotte. So when they don't get to choose their real, correct? I mean, JP Morgan chose to serve us for him, right? And then he came to me and said, I want to use their recommending, I want to use you, so then he tells them. And then basically we both kind of do like a BPO, and then we go in and then he obviously said he just worked with me, but is there a way around that? Is it just he should be have said to begin with, I'm not work when you leave around?
So let me paraphrase that to speak to the bigger issue. So sometimes Jim gets transferred in with Weichert with ABC Widget Company, but then he gets transferred out with NEI Relocation because maybe they changed. So you should acknowledge that that might happen. But then to get to the how do I deal with the requested agent, maybe they want to work with you, but their reload company says
Wendy.
Wendy?
Wendy.
How do you spell it? I say Wendy.
Okay, Wendy.
So transfer wants to work with this young lady. So they want to work with Wendy. I feel like a little click on it. They want to work says they're not our preferred provider. That's a moot point because so XYZ relocation company says they're not our preferred provider. Here's where it happened, Cardis Relocation, because they really only like to work with their children, which are the Realogy family of real estate companies. My advice, if this is what you're asking, is tell your client to say, hey, no way, I want to work with Wendy. I really want to work with Wendy. And if they're adamant about it, usually they'll get like one pushback from the consultant, and then they'll be like, oh, okay. And then they'll call our team and they'll say, is Wendy Relo approved? Which really means, is Wendy willing to pay a referral fee? And we'll say, yes. And then they'll say, you're magically on just for this one deal. But your client needs to be your advocate in that case. Did I get the scenario? Hey, what could be worse? Maybe I could just be running out of air. Let's see if this mechanical thing still works and all my electronic challenges. So, so we're going to talk about the ERCB. I'm going to kind of pass these out. They're super exciting. You know what we really need to follow along with is these are all some tables might be short, so just raise your hand because some tables got one. Duck is right. So does this look familiar to people? So I'm going to do the, whoops, this one is brand. You know, we're just going to do an interesting. I've got two BMA presentations. But, okay, show of hands, who's filled out an ERC BMA? Okay, this is probably about 75% of you. This is like the worst electronic day of my life. I'm glad I was in the test.
You've been on too many planes.
I've been on too many planes, yeah. I flew through some weird dynamic fields.
It's actually 2022.
I finally got to that sleep. Okay, finally, cool. Well, we're guaranteed to be on time because I'm skipping the middle presentation. But no, so the middle presentation just goes like line by line through this, and I think you all probably get it. So what I'm going to do is talk a little more thematically on why there's an ERC-BMA. We'll go page by page, but more in general, what does it mean? What are they talking about? So, and how do we use it to win a listing? And this literally was from me interviewing over 100 relocation consultants last year in my travels. So a lot of Panera Bread, a lot of wine, a lot of, tell me about the ERC-BMA, and believe it or not, they were very passionate about it. So I want you to understand the what and why, a little bit of history behind it, and be able to use that to your advantage. So you can figure out what the influencers want and why they kind of have this Byzantine formula that they use, and how to use it to win. And they were really candid with me on what they were looking for. So it was developed, this was like an old 70s motivational business thing called SWOT. I don't know if anyone is tenured enough to remember this, but strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So the point is, you're not dealing with Mr. Jones who is selling their home. you're gonna be doing this up for a relocation company that ultimately might be taking this into inventory. So you're not focusing so much on this beautiful garden in the back and this and that, and this is a home where they raise their kids. The people who are reading this wanna know what's good about this home, what's bad about this home, what are opportunities, you know, and are there power lines in the back, you know, so that might be a threat to it. It was developed in 1989, so it's been around for a long time, and it's been revised 3 times, most recently in 2008, so even the most recent one is 11 years old. And the goal is for it to be a broker's perspective and a cross-check for the appraiser. Typically, you're going to have 2 companies filling out the ERC BMA. As I mentioned in the other training, if they're out of whack by too much, they're going to bring a 3rd company in, and then they're going to throw out the outlier. So, the reason they have this is for consistency. It needs to play in theory, so to speak. Meaning, if the consultant in Serva is sick for the day, the person who's handling their files can step in and they'll know exactly what they're talking about when they're saying the comps don't line up on page 4, or this is a little different, or why did they do this on page 6. So they needed something that was easy to read, easy to share, easy to communicate among the team, and easy to communicate to the transferee as well as the corporation. Because again, remember, most of the people who you are interacting with are not in the Atlanta area. So they don't know what's good and what's bad about the market. So I will use this as an example. So let's pretend, so this is water, right? So let's pretend like this is Fresca. Do they still make Fresca? Okay, let's pretend like this is Fresca. If you live where I live, up in Yankeedom, they would say, hey, do you want a pop? Which is also, I use that phrase for wine. So we'll have some pops before a pop. If you were from the Northwest, you would call this Fresca a soda. Or from the West Coast. Or from where?
New England.
Or from New England. It's soda. It's a little more refined. There are certain pockets where they actually call it soft drinks in Virginia. But what do you call a Fresca in Atlanta? That's weird. You call it pop. Well, you're from Iowa, so you're from the Midwest. So basically, you've got all these great BMAs that Ansley does, and that App Properties does, and that John L. Scott does in Seattle, and that Des Moines Realty does in Iowa, but they all need to look the same and act the same. So this is why we have this goofy BMA. So, or another way to look at a camel is a horse designed by a committee. So it had to make the brokers happy, it had to make the appraisers happy, it had to make the corporation happy, and that's why it's such a big spot, okay? So it's used by the RMCs, the Real Management Companies, to persuade transferees on who to use. And they have told me again and again, we use the ERC BMA to persuade people. Also to dissuade people. Because I've had counselors say, sometimes they take a look at a BMA and I notice this agent is not going to do a good job because they didn't fill it all out. And not even so much the comps, but the way they describe the comps or what they did on page 6. We'll get to page 6, it's a very exciting page. Just didn't do it for them, and they will actively work against whoever did the worst page 6. So for you, it's a huge opportunity to sell to the transferee. They may see this, an opportunity for you to get referred. You might think, how am I going to get referred when it's a listing and they're moving away? Well, they work for a company that moves people away. So some of their colleagues may be moving away in the coming months and coming years. But it's an even better opportunity for you to sell to a relocation management company and get requested. You can't register a relocation company, by the way, as your client. But if you do a good job, there's nothing we would like more than them saying, we want Wendy on this because she did a great job last time. So if you're mad that Wendy's taking all your business, then you just need to do a great job with BMA and get requested. Because when agents are requested, we're going to honor that from the relocation management. Because if they goof up, they were requested. But so you all have this 6 pages, which we're not going to go through page by page. You'll be very grateful about It's 6 very important pages, but really only one super important page, and that's page 6. And that's how much you're going to sell it, how much you're going to list it for, how much you're going to sell it for, and what are you going to do to make sure that that happens. So, we'll kind of go page by page, more thematically, on what it means and what it is, okay? So page 1 kind of explains that it's not an appraisal, it's not an inspection, but it's here to support the appraisal. It's for selling the home as is, so without significant R&I, although you'll talk about what the benefits would be, but when you price it without the R&I, repairs and improvements. For a most likely sales price not to exceed 120 days. And I think I was just, what's Atlanta's days on market, 50 something? I know it depends on where it is. 38. I just had Brian pull the whole metro, I want to say was 56 days. We're at about 78 days in Chicago. So obviously we're in a good market. But especially those of you who have done this for a while, if you did this in 2009, this probably wasn't a 50-day market. You know, in Chicagoland, if you've got a $5 million house out in the Boonies, that's a 200, 300, 400-day market. So the point with a BMA, we price it to sell within what the market is, up to 120 days. So if you're in a 56-day market, you price it to sell in 56 days. If you're in a 90-day market, you price it to sell in 90 days. If you're in a 150-day market, which might seem crazy now, but we'll talk next year, it might be different, you price it to sell in 120 days. If you're in a 200-day market, you price it to sell in 120 days. So you price it to sell within whatever parameters they give you. Sometimes it'll be 120, more often 90, but you might get a request for what it's going to be in 60 days. And you know better than I do, you know, so it may be R&I depending on the home. Usually it's compelling pricing. So, you know, as they say, the trade only walks by once. So if you need to sell in a 200-day market in 60 days, you need to push it so it's going to get the most activity. That's probably the most important thing about page 1, what it is and what it isn't. So page 2, which are the basics. It's the condition of the home compared to the market. It's inspections and disclosures, and R&I. And it's not only some cosmetic things that might make a difference. This isn't the opportunity to say, if you put in a new kitchen for $20,000, we think you'll get $22,000 back. So it's not the time to do stuff like that. And we know you never, if seldom ever get 100% back on something like that. But this is where customary. In this townhome community, all the countertops are granite, and this is for mica. So this is a suggested improvement to make it similar to what the comps are. Or in this town, we need a water cert from the village to make sure we can close. Or the village needs to also do an inspection, or the homeowners association needs to come through before. It's what are things that are needed to bring it to close and to bring it to market. So some of it might be cosmetic, but just as often as not, it might be some legal, not bad way of legal, but it might be some municipal reasons that you need to change one thing or another. So page 3 is financing, marketing. This is pretty straightforward. You know, does it need unique financing? For the most part, I'd say the stuff we're dealing with are going to be conventional loans or jumbo loans. They're going to ask you to do absorption rate and days on market. As you know, those are different things. It's important to put that in. Another broker is going to be doing it, so let's let them be the one who does it incorrectly. Now, you can go micro or you can go macro when you're looking at the area. The most important thing is tell them if you're going micro or macro. You know, there might be some communities in Atlanta where your competition is only that individual community, as opposed to the town, as opposed to maybe a very generic home that is typical of someone who might be looking in 3, 4, 5 different markets. I mean, maybe in some of the luxury high-rises in Buckhead, your competition is that building only. I mean, we have that a lot in Chicago. Sometimes the comps always and only get pulled from one individual building because people are looking in that specific area. Fortunately, you don't have co-ops in this market to deal with. But the message is that you're analyzing specific data and they're going to the experts. That's what we want the RMCs to be telling the transferee when they're going over the ERC DMA with them. And more than likely, they will go over both of the DMAs with them. They'll probably be via a phone call, but they'll say, let's look at this first one, and now let's look at this second one. Another reason for it to not be handwritten. So, comps. You've got 2 pages for comps. The thing that I would promote, you remember, is data is your friend, but don't let data set you up. So the biggest question that you're going to hear 30, 60, 90 days later is, why didn't you tell me that? So as long as you are pulling, as long as you can support your comps, we're in full support of you. And obviously in an accelerating market, it makes more sense focusing on pendings, and in a decelerating market, it makes more sense to focus on close. As you also know, if you're putting pendings in, you don't know what the final closing price is. So don't let the comp set you up. Again, keep in mind the 30 days is 30 days, but 150 days might still be 90 days. So using data to tell a story. All of this builds up to what page 6 is going to be. So same thing, page 5 is going to be some closed comps. No matter what, I think they asked for 3. You've got to find as many comps as they ask you for. There may be a reason why you can't find 3 comps, but find 3 anyway, even if you need to go to Augusta. Just say, look, for this property, to find a comparable property, it's going to be way out here, and you can explain that on page 6. But they look at anything that's not filled out as an error and usually kick it back. So, using the data to tell the story. So, we talked about this already, but why is your expertise important, and why do you need to really state the obvious? When you're working with your over-the-counter transactions, they know the market, at least somewhat. They know inside the perimeter from outside the perimeter. If the consultant is in Connecticut, they don't know what that means. So here's a little test, if you can see this map. What percentage, this is a super easy question, of your clients live somewhere on this map? I've had people get it wrong. Did I? Yes. I heard 100. Okay. So, these are the top 10 markets that give business to Atlanta for relocation. One of them happens to be Atlanta. Phoenix, Denver, Omaha, Nebraska, Minnesota, the Twin Cities, Dallas, Plano, Frisco, Chicago, Cleveland, beautiful Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and most of the state of Connecticut. This is where 95% of the relocation companies are located across the United States. Atlanta represents approximately 5% of the business that goes to Atlanta. Meaning you may know that Grable Relocation is here, and One Source Relocation is here. There's a couple other little teeny ones. 19 out of 20 of the relocations that you receive will be handled by a consultant who does not live in Atlanta, who doesn't know anything about the perimeter, doesn't know about the bars. They may not know about Waffle House. I mean, they really need to be educated on market. So it's really important to know that the person, they're just going off what you're putting on these 6 pages. It's not your transferee. And to make things even more confusing, your transferee lives in Atlanta, but their relocation company is in Dallas, but the corporate client that hired them is in Seattle. So you've got someone from Seattle looking at your DMA, and you've got somebody from Dallas looking at your DMA with your transferee from Atlanta. That's why you really need to state the obvious and do your best at not schooling them, but educating them on what's going on. Going back. I'm going to take a horse and buggy back to my hotel because I cannot work anything today.
Because it is 2019.
Because it is 2019, give or take. My wife's been. So, page 6, kind of the only page anyone really cares about. It's the page everyone reads, and it's the page that in theory is the only one that's different, the difference from agent to agent. It's the most important important page, it's the tiebreaker page. This is where you sell yourself. So the message to the transferee is that the RMC and the partners have analyzed the situation, they've come up with these recommendations, we've got confidence in them, and here's why. At least that's what they want to say. That's why it's important to have a well filled out ERC broker market analysis. So, the consultant. We're going to make fun of the consultant. Has anyone here ever had a consultant for a relocation company? Okay, good. Because I've had that happen before, and it's very embarrassing. So, the consultant is an overworked person, not that you're not overworked. They have about 20 pain points that they're working through for relocation. So we've got the most important one, because if the home doesn't sell, the relocation's not going to happen, or it's going to go into inventory. But they're also dealing with the movement of household goods. They might be dealing with spousal assistance. They're dealing with the mortgage. They're dealing with the closing company. They're dealing with the title company. They're dealing with the child with special needs. So they're not going home at 5 o'clock. My goal is, don't be the reason that they're not going home at 5 o'clock. They're not going home anyway at 5 o'clock, but if they don't have to call us back because the name wasn't filled out, you're going to be ahead of the game. I generally put them into two groups, and I'm being candid, and that's why I asked if anyone needs to be a relocation consultant. There's relo kids and there's classics. So, Krista, would you stand up? So relocate. The very new, you can sit down. Thank you for indulging me. Now it's different because you come from a real estate family and you have a real estate degree. But someone who is maybe the age of Krista, they got out of school, couldn't find a job, there's this ad for this place called Grable. Yes, I'm going to go there, I'm going to work there, I'm going to be consultant. They don't know anything about real estate. If anything, they know that 3 people on their block had a foreclosure when they were little kids. That real estate isn't the American dream anymore. They don't really get absorption rates for days on market, things like that. In as much as you can figure out if you're dealing with a real estate kid, which you kind of can as you interact with them a little bit via email, it's your great opportunity to be like, I'm going to help you out through this. I'm going to, I'm an expert, I know what I'm talking about. The real estate classics are more like, if you remember when you used to be able to smoke in the offices, I do, barely. It's kind of, somebody who's like, I remember when real estate, when mortgages were 19% and but not like you, because these ones are grouchy. So they've done it, they've been there, they used to think they were great real estate agents, and then they wanted a job with benefits, they wanted health insurance. So they went to a relocation management company, and they think they know it all. They might be worse than the relocation kids, but you play to them a little differently. You would kind of acknowledge that they know what they're talking about. They're going to really scrutinize your DMA. Treat them with the respect that they feel that they deserve. And it's it's all about relationships, but it's tough for you to build a relationship with these people because they're in Connecticut, or they're in Frisco, or they're in San Diego, or they're somewhere far away. But what I can tell you is 19 times out of 20, statistically proven, they're always out of state and they're almost always out of touch with the market. And so is the corporate client. So that's why these 6 orange pieces of paper are so super important. I'm going to play this little video that's been kind of working its way around the Relo world for the last couple of years. It's done by a relocation management company to try and kind of put you in the shoes of the transferee. Have you seen this? Okay. When we talk about that you've got 11 days to accept the job, you've got 30 days to show up. Let's see if this works. That'll be pretty.
Paul got the job, the promotion in California. I cannot believe it. We're moving to Palo Alto. I cannot believe it. I can do this. I've been a soccer mom. I'm disciplined. I'm calendar. I'm organized. I can do this. We sat down and told the kids tonight. I've got a 17-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl. We said to her, honey, what do you think? And she stood up and said, thank you for ruining my life. I'm not going. So the realtor comes over and she says to me, oh, there are going to be some things that need to be done here for this to be appealing to buyers. With the time zone difference and his new job, he's barely here for me. In fact, he told me the other day that he only gets one home visit before we move. But now all of a sudden, I've got the closing company calling me, and the title company calling me, and the mortgage company calling me, and they're telling me all these things I have to do. I know you need this paperwork signed, but I have friends here. I am letting go of an entire life. This is all I know. It's funny, I don't feel like anybody's really taking care of me. I mean, I've got all these people who are doing part of the process, and they're really helpful as individuals, but collectively, nobody is helping me get through this.
So this is kind of like if the Hallmark Channel did a show. A little melodramatic, but I think the point is kind of accurate. This isn't somebody who, hey, the kids are out of school, so we're going to sell the house and we're going to get a condo in Bucket. This isn't someone who, we just had our second kid, we're really excited now, and we're going to move from our little condo in Bucket to a house in Alpharetta. We want to go to this suburb because of the schools. It's someone who's in kind of a stressful situation. So you're already dealing with someone who's a little wacky. And a spouse who may or may not be happy about the opportunity. So just wanted to kind of share that with you. One other thing, I'll play one more short video. I'm a huge fan of video, and I know we have some agents here who do videos. Does anyone do, I know you do videos on listings sometimes, but does anyone do their own branded video? Okay. Well, you're here. We have started to do one at Ansley, and what we are doing is we're sending this video out as soon as we get the listing opportunity, before we're choosing an agent, before they're contacted by anyone, just to kind of demonstrate that the image we're trying to portray is we're professional, we're objective, we're going to get you set up with the best agent out there, and we know that this is kind of a goofy time for you. So probably 95% of our transfers receive this right after the initiation. Hi, I'm John D'Ambrosio with the Relocation team at Ansley Real Estate. Your relocation consultant has asked us to prepare a BMA for you. You will be contacted soon by a Relo certified agent to set up the time to meet. A couple of things. A BMA, or broker market analysis, is used by your Relo company and you to help you price your home. It's a little different from a BMA you might have seen in the past. We use specific guidelines to make sure you can be advised on the best approach to marketing your home. You may receive a call from another broker as well. This is typical and helps ensure pricing is accurate for the market. We will likely not discuss price at the meeting. This would be at the direction of the relocation company. Please focus on finding an agent and company that can best market your home. The Ansley Relo team would love to hear what you love in your home and what you want in an agent. Ansley is proud of our marketing and our reputation. We'd be proud to help you sell your home. The entire team will be working for you. I love that actor. So we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback. What we didn't say is, hi, I'm John with Ansley. We are the best. We're kicking butt over our competitors, and we are number one in luxury, and we have Buckhead all wrapped up. We said, hey, this is going to be a difficult time for you. We want you to know there's going to be some weird things. You're going to get a BMA. We explain what that is, because mostly all they hear is the acronyms. We let them know that there's going to be 2 agents coming out. We let them know that I try and give them a heads up that we shouldn't discuss price, so hopefully it gives you a little bit of a heads up. It's been very well received. The feedback that we've gotten from the Relo consultants are the agents, the transferees think that you were definitely the preferred one because you were able to send them a video. Which certainly isn't true. We were just first in market. We did the video, and Aaron Norman and Nicole Banker have not done the video. So until they send out a video, we've got that nice advantage. I would also encourage all of you to do your own branded video that you send out. In interviewing the relocation consultants. They said, what is the most important thing to you that we should be doing for the agents? And number 3 came in and explained the process. Number 2 was creative marketing. Number 1 was confidence. They said, if we don't feel like the person on the other end of the phone or the other end of the email has confidence, we're going to go right to the next person. We need to promote the person who is acting like they can get the deal done. This isn't all that different from your over-the-counter stuff, but there's a veil between you and two of the decision makers, which is a corporation and the RMC. Okay, so how to win? I said, how do we win? And they said, first let's tell you how to lose. All of them wanted to talk about requested agents. I'm assuming that many of you here, because you are great agents and you have a sphere, have been requested agents in the past, right? Have some of you gone up against requested agents that you've known of in terms of a reload listing? Maybe. Well, requested agents are kind of a double-edged sword. It's actually, according to the relocation company, it's a huge disadvantage. As soon as they hear there's a requested agent, alarms start going off. They're like, oh my gosh, it's probably their sister-in-law, or it's probably their neighbor, and they pressure them into it. So they don't think it's going to make their life easier, and fairly or unfairly, the requested agent is put behind the 8 ball. More often than not, they have said, we sell against requested agents because we think there's something shady going on here. So when you're requested, you have a hurdle to overcome. And most agents are a little confused to hear that. All things equal, RMCs don't like to work with preferred agents. The impression is they're not trained, they can buy the listing, they don't really care, they don't need to work that hard with a reload management company, they're not going to try, and they're going to keep the listing no matter what. The last one is definitely false. The rest can go either way, whether you're requested or not requested, but you're already going into it with that impression. So, when you're requested, what I would suggest, you can put this on page 6 or as an addendum email. Hey, I know I was a requested agent for 123 Main Street, but I do want you to know I know my stuff. I've been selling for X amount of years. This is my volume. I've been trained on the ERC VMA. We understand this isn't an over-the-counter transaction. And if you could throw in, I understand that Coca-Cola is the reason this client is being moved. They're just going to love you. They're going to be like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. So when you're not requested, how do we sabotage the other agent in the nicest way? Well, that's when you say stuff like, you know, hi, oh, I understand you have a requested agent. Oh, yeah, your kids play soccer, you guys are cool. Well, I was picked because I was really trained and so I'm aware of all the challenges that you're going through. Did you receive the video that we sent you? Or maybe did you receive my video? And that's where, you could say, hey, Ansley sells $1 billion a year. The relocation department at Ansley sells hundreds of millions a year, and I sell X amount of millions a year. This is when you play up to your relationship with Ansley and with the fact you've got a real department. Promote yourself, promote the brand. Whoops, it cut off a little bit, what a surprise. That says, always say we're preferred brokerage for XYZ Realty, unless you're from Cardis, because they don't like us. They only work with global banks in this market. Is the other one a preferred provider? Well, yeah, so they wouldn't have gotten a call. But if the other one doesn't say that, and you say it, that when they're sitting around having coffee after you left, well, that nice lady from Ansley said that they were preferred for Grable. Is the other one preferred to them? I don't know, maybe she just fell off of a tree and sent an email in and they had her come and do a VMA. It's those little things that I think are going to make a difference. Remind them that you're a preferred brokerage. Because the relocation transferee doesn't really understand what that is. Kind of like search with Rets, right? You don't really know what it is, but it was a great marketing. So, that's how you can have requested work to your advantage. I asked them how to lose, and everyone said, if you screw up page 6, you're going to lose. We're going to actively sell against you because we're going to think you do not know what you are talking about. So if you do a good page 6, you're great. So the following should not be part of your marketing strategy, and they are not compelling. I will put the property in the MLS. So will your competitor. I will have a lockbox. stole your competitor. They might actually show it, so don't. I'll do an open house, I'll have a yard sign, I'll have a virtual tour, I'll have a flyer. Don't put in any of the things that every agent's gonna do. I don't know exactly what you do, whether it's reverse prospecting, or I've been in this business for 20 years, I know this market. I'm gonna have balloons at the open house, or I'm gonna have booze at the open house, or I'm gonna do an open house. What's that?
Now they're doing the open houses in Boston.
Oh, wow, we should do that in Chicago. I would caution you against offering marijuana at your open house. The people will never leave. They'll be like, oh, look at that chandelier.
They did on the open house.
Did they?
It was like $200 million.
Anyway, this is your opportunity to shine. And if you do the same old, because I guarantee you that's what the other broker is going to be doing, this gives you the opportunity to make a difference, all right? Whether it's your sphere, whether it's your personal expertise in these types of homes, or the amount that you sold in the past, how you do your prospecting, whatever makes you different and differentiates you. I find this very important. If you, in the next week, could open up a Word doc and write down how great you are, and why you should be able to sell this home being any home, and save it as a template. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Put that in your page 6, copy and paste it. You may need to change a word or two, and you won't be scratching your head every time. You know, you kind of have your very own personal mission statement, and if you force yourself on Sunday night to write this, you'll have something that you can use again and again. Promote yourself, show some excitement when you come in. I mean, it's amazing when we get negative feedback, it's kind of like, well, she came in, or he came in and said, yeah, hi, I'm with App. I'm gonna list your house, what do you got? And if you walk through like that, you know, that's gonna get to the relocation company, and they're gonna actively sell against you. You know, thank them for the opportunity. I don't know if we have any ninjas here? What? I have one more thing? Okay, some people are going next week? Okay, you're gonna learn about personal notes. Personal notes are big with the ninjas. You know, things like that make a big difference. And somebody might say, well, personal notes, how am I gonna have time to do a personal note? All of this is gonna take place in like 4 days. So, you write 40 personal notes and say, it was so nice coming to see your home, I hope I get an opportunity to list it. Or you have your kid do it, and you pay them money if they have better handwriting than you do. That's what I do, because I have horrible handwriting. And you know you're gonna go see Billy Bob at 123 Main Street, right? All you need to do is address it to Mr. Bob at 123 Main Street, bring it with you and drop it in the mailbox on your way back. They're gonna get it, what, 2 days later, 1 day later? They're gonna get it probably the day or two before the relo company calls and says, who did you like better? I mean, that is, how much are its stamps? 49 cents, 57 cents? It's going to be far none the best investment you make. And you can do all of these generic, and all you need to do is address it. Just keep the same pen, keep them all in the same drawer, and use the same pen. It looks like you just wrote it today. I'm a big fan of that. You know, thank them for the opportunity, promote your position in the marketplace. You know, this is when you promote Ansley's growth. I'm sure we've got some stats through marketing that you can use. We have grown an incredible amount, especially when you look at some of our worthy competitors who have been recoiling in terms of the volume of what they're doing. So saying that stuff makes a difference. So, page 6 is really.
Does the owner see your page 6?
Sorry?
Does the owner get to see your page 6?
It depends on the company. More often than not, the owner gets to see page 6. I would say, from asking around, about half the time, not half the time, but a little less than half the time, they white out or they blank out the price.
So what about the negatives? Because there's right on this portion of the channel, what if you walk in the house?
Crazy cat.
Smells like a dog.
Quarter.
Or, I mean, are you supposed to?
And to piggyback on that, how do you, if it's supposed to be on page 1 as is, without making changes, what if it needs, you know, a new kitchen or all new carpet that smells like cats? How do you identify that here?
You can identify the challenges. So let's talk about that for a second. So let's start with the cat thing, right? So, you know, you could put something like neutralizing neutralizing foam for odor. I wouldn't say anything stronger than that. And then for the hoarder, it could be, perhaps professional declutter, get in your Zen zone or whatever. But there's nothing wrong, in fact, it's very much appreciated, attach a Word doc and say to the consultant, and say, Mary, I didn't want to be so bold as to be candid, but the house is trash. And you can say it in a slightly nicer way.
Or
But if you,
they're in love with their purple carpet.
they're in love with their purple carpet. They said, no way are they painting that mural. They love avocado bathrooms. So if you've got embarrassing negative stuff, say it on a separate document. They will love you for it.
How often do we, are there any numbers on how often we would get a listing and say 90 days or after the person gets a buyout, that he loses it? When it goes to Whitehawk Realty?
The question is, statistically, what happens after the 90 days if there's a buyout? You picked a great example, or a bad example. Weichert is, always follows their policy, and if on day 90 they pull it, they don't care if you've got 20 people who are about to write an offer, they don't care how hard you work. Other companies can be a little more lenient about that, and it goes company by company, and sometimes it goes counselor by counselor. What it really does is it goes corporation by corporation. So I'll make this up, but Coca-Cola might say 90 days, forget it. And Tesla might say, hey, I don't care if the agent is good and you feel like it's just been a challenge, then they're allowed to keep it. So there's no tried and true, and it also depends on.
Because it could be 120 days.
Right, it depends. Well,
100 day market, price point.
but if it's a 120-day market and they ask you to price it in 90 days, that's when compelling pricing comes in. And this isn't the perfect scenario, but that's when, if everything went according to plan, you would lose it. You would lose a listing and then you would get it in inventory. We have that happen more often than you would think. It's a lot easier to go back, if it's gonna go in inventory and they're gonna pull it from Coldwell Banker, they've already got your VMA, so they're already in a better spot, especially if you came in at 490, they came in at 540, and they've been slowly riding the market down. One other thing I would suggest is, not many agents take us up on this, but we always do this when we question. If you lose a listing, if you think it's because you priced it correctly and because somebody bought the listing, we don't have, in Chicago, we don't have access to your MLS, and it would also be somewhat time consuming, but if you want to watch that listing, and if on day 75 it's still listed, and you would like to reach out to whichever team member from Ansley Relo, assign that to you, say, hey, 123 Main Street is still listed, and it's tanking on the price, and it's getting no showings. Could you remind the Relo company that we're still here? We can reach out and say, hey, you're on day 75, I don't know what you're doing at day 90, well I do, but not necessarily. Let us know if you'd like us to refresh the VMA. And then we can come back to you, and all you'd have to refresh is the price, maybe you wouldn't have to refresh it at all, and resubmit the VMA. You just saved them 10 or 15 minutes of trying to figure out what company to call, and they get it. The opportunity may come back to you. We've seen that happen anecdotally a lot of times. White, do you have a white listing right now?
No.
Sorry?
I've worked with them in the past.
White's
Like
tough. The nice thing about is White's not a huge real estate presence here.
well, luckily this took over.
But
So that's his son now.
right. So while they're not a big real estate presence, the good thing is they don't tend to go to White brokers right away. But their policy is if it doesn't sell in 90 days, it goes and goes to White. Yeah, White is the toughest with that. Was there another comment with that?
Well, in terms of refreshing the price, I mean, what you're basically saying is that you entered a VMA, somebody else got the listing, and then you're watching it, and that other company, you started out higher, and you gave when you say buy the listing, that's kind of where I don't understand. Because they bought the listing because they came in higher?
Yeah. When they felt that they could really
Sell it for more.
I don't know if they felt they could sell it for more, but they felt they could list it if they said it was 540.
Right.
I mean, just like over the counter, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
you buy the listing and you tell somebody they're gonna get more for their house.
Right.
So basically, you're sitting there watching it and saying, you know, I was right all along, and you go back and refresh it.
Yeah, and it might be down to your price, or it might be from $540 to $530, and you still think it's $490. What do you have to lose by going back in again, especially if you're confident at that price? And when I say refresh the price, the market may have changed in 90 days also.
Yeah, when you refresh it, are you basically going back through the whole process again?
No, because
You're just changing the price.
yeah, I mean, you might need to change a comp or two. I mean, a pending or two might have gotten sold, but you're not doing all that boring stuff on page, what's all boring, right? You're not doing all that page 1, page 2, page 3. It might be 10 minutes that you're working on it, and you're just adjusting the important piece, you know, where the price should go. It's kind of like going back and saying, I was right, or apparently this person who you picked is wrong. We know you're gonna probably change agents, so can we have an opportunity to get back to the game? Does that make sense?
I get it.
I'm not suggesting you redo the entire DMA, because you've already done the guts of it.
But is that going on where people are actually buying the listing by going in line?
I mean, it happens in your over-the-counter business.
Yeah, I know.
From the things that I just talked about, you've got transferee, you've got the relocation company in Texas, you've got the corporation in Seattle. It's easier to snow those two people than it is to snow the transferee.
So the transferee is the one who wants to hear that it's gonna sell for more.
Yeah, and if the Relo company and the corporation are located in the Atlanta metro area, and the other comps that are pulled go support that, we know that we can make comps support a number of different price ranges, and the transferee is saying, I love Bill, he did a great job. She really just loves Bill because he gave her a great price. So, you know, I think you actually have a better opportunity of doing that in a relocation atmosphere than you do with an over-the-counter listing that might be listed for 6 months or a year. I mean, it's just a tool that we've suggested. We've seen agents use it with success. So if you're willing to put that time into it. So just some more kind of random comments. I didn't know exactly where to put them in, so they became the last 2 slides. We've already talked about that. The ERC is often shared with the corporation and with the transferee, sometimes with the price, sometimes not with the price. You know, it's an opportunity for you to sell your strengths. They will almost always ask outright, who did you like better? They might say, who do you think did better marketing? But what they're really asking is, who did you like better? And that's going to influence them a little bit. As mentioned, sometimes the RMCs are going to withhold the price. I think it's great when they do that because then you're going for the marketing. Did you have a question, or is it kind of?
Yeah, and not to get into this, what are the expectations as far as marketing? You know, obviously, that every agent has their own kind of bag of tricks and what they're going to do when they present a listing or what they're going to provide. What are the expectations if you get a listing of what services an agent will provide?
Let me tell you in general, our expectations are not to do less than you would normally do. You know what I mean? Sometimes agents say, well, I've got to pay a referral fee, or I would do this and that. I say if you're an agent and your toolkit includes a virtual tour and a video and a floor plan and a drone, you know, I'm going to the nth degree here, we would expect and hope that that's what you would do on a real deal versus another deal. Now, if you're going up against the slick kid in town and you happen to know that he or she does all of that, play it just as you would on over the counter. If your MO would be to match that, then match that. I mean, we're not necessarily in a position to give you dollars to do enhanced marketing, but you could always go in and ask the relocation company, tell them that staging would be necessary, decluttering would be necessary. You shouldn't necessarily have to pay for that on your own. Those are things where they may be able to go back to the corporation and see if they can get an okay.
Okay, that doesn't answer my next question. As far as like when you're asking us to say, hey, what do we do to get this to market value? And you know, maybe it's new paint or it needs new carpet in this area. Obviously the agent would pay for that, but they work it out or try to get it coordinated.
Yeah, so let them know what's gonna be needed, so all you can do is make the suggestions. Some relocation companies will do like $2,000 spruce up or clean up allowance or something like that. But as specific as you can be, and maybe if it's really bad stuff, put it on a separate Word doc, would be beneficial. Make sense? As mentioned, you got 3 decision makers, maybe more than 3, because maybe you've got transferee spouse, you've got those kids you don't want to move. You are asked to not name a price. Please don't name a price. Please don't name a price. When they corner you and don't let you leave before you name a price and you name a price, please call us afterward and say, I'm sorry, I named the price, so we can get in front of it. RMCs get very upset when we name a price, because when you name a price, you've already bought it at that price. You've already sold it. And some people say, well, what if I give them a range, 520 to 550? Do you think that they heard 520 or 544? They heard 550. So blame it on us. Hopefully the video softened it a little bit. But if they do beat you up and literally don't let you leave, just let us know so we can run a little bit of interference. And as we discussed about 5 minutes ago, the candidate information, describe that objectively and kindly, maybe in a separate email or a Word doc, or if it's really crazy and you could barely breathe, see if you can arrange a phone call. Trust me, they're going to appreciate it. They're going to figure it out when it goes into inventory, when they go to see it and they fall down when they open up the door. They consistently said, if you get on our good side, we'll go to bat for you. They suggested you explain why you use forecasting. Because that's not necessarily a conversation you have with your over-the-counter people. You might allude to that, but tell them, hey, this is supposed to be sold in 90 days or 120 days. That's why we're going to price it sharply. You don't have to say, and that's why we're going to price it at 400. Say that's going to be reflected in my price. If you have to go out of the area for comps, because it's a very unique type property, just let them know on page 6. Let the RMC know, and if you can explain the process, just like us. I explained the process kind of in 45 seconds. No one ever, look at that lady in the white who was freaking out in the video. She felt like no one explained the process to her. If you could explain a little bit, hey, there's going to be a couple of brokers here, we can't talk about price. I look forward to the opportunity. I'm going to fill out this weird form and I'm going to send it in, and we hope we get the opportunity to work with you. Lower price is almost always favored by the RMC. The higher price, you're already behind the 8 ball. Be prepared, be on time. Follow up with an email. I would suggest to follow up with a note. They usually ask you to not continue to follow up. Don't badger. Don't do a lot of follow-ups with the seller, but something like a thank you for your time is always going to be appreciated. No one's going to blow your smoke for that. And then the final thing, they'll say, can you answer these questions in 90 days? Why didn't you tell me that? And why didn't you ask me that? So if you keep that in mind, that should make a huge difference. So, and that's it. It sounds like there's. Oh, I guess we were just on time. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions,